Let me refresh the page. Oh, I think it started. Okay, awesome. So hello, everyone. Welcome to Asian Queens in Animation. Today we have our Breaking into Animation Through Virtual Internships panel, and we have a special guest moderator. We have Vina Kong, who is a production assistant at DreamWorks Animation, and I'll be passing on the lead to you.
So yeah, thank you, Maansi, for the introductions and for Asian Queens in Animation for inviting me to moderate today's panel. And yeah, thank you to all the panelists and those of you in the audience today for spending your Wednesday evening with us as well. So like Maansi said, my name is Vina. I'm currently a production assistant at DreamWorks TV, and I identify as Asian American of Chinese descent. I was also previously a DreamWorks production intern in spring 2020, and here we have 3 wonderful DreamWorks interns from the fall 2020 cohort, and we'll be discussing their experience about applying to animation internships, the hiring process, what they did, and other general advice about their internship. So we will have some time at the end to answer some audience questions, so please type your questions in the chat below. And yeah, let's start with introductions. Why don't we start with Ahdenae, and then Gina, and then Maansi, alphabetically.
Sure thing. Hello, everyone. I'm Ahdenae, and I was the feature production intern on The Bad Guys this past fall. And I'm a recent graduate from Woodbury University, and I got my degree in business management with 2 minors in animation and professional writing.
Hello, I am Gina, and I'm from San Francisco. I was a DreamWorks TV production intern, and I'm currently a senior undergrad at NYU, majoring in integrated digital media and minoring in producing as well as studio art. And I culturally identify as Taiwanese Japanese American.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. My name is Maansi Sunkara. I was a TV production intern on Madagascar A Little Wild, and I am currently a senior at SCAD down in Savannah, and my major is visual effects with a minor in technical direction, and I identify as a South Indian. So, yeah.
Awesome. So right off the bat, how does it feel to be, like, now that you're completed with your fall internships?
It feels weird. Definitely feels really weird. I miss the team a lot, and definitely it's just crazy. I just can't wait to graduate and try to get back in.
No, yeah, definitely. Like, it just ended last week, and I feel it's like suddenly I don't have any work to do. So I definitely miss the work and being able to see everybody every day. And same thing, I can't wait to graduate and just be able to go back somehow.
And I definitely feel the same. I am feeling like I'm so missing my team and everything, and excited to return one day.
Yeah, I definitely had the same feeling back in spring. I remember my internship ended and then waking up the next day, and it all kind of felt like a dream. So can you talk about a little bit what the application process was like for you, and how long after you applied did you hear back from the recruiter, and how did they first get in touch with you? And maybe we can have Maansi go first this time.
Yeah, sure. So I applied immediately when the application went up, because after the virtual series, they told us they would have virtual internships. So I was prepared. And so I applied right the day it came out. And I didn't hear back until I think it was the day after it closed or the day it closed. And I was reached out through email.
So I actually didn't apply the traditional way through the DreamWorks website. I'm actually part of an organization called T. Howard Foundation. That's pretty much like an organization that promotes diversity in media and entertainment, not just animation. So one of their partners studios was DreamWorks, and I applied to the DreamWorks internship through T. Howard Foundation. So I applied there around August, and I heard back around September, it's about a month later, and the same thing through email.
And I did apply the traditional way. So I was friends with an alumni from my school that currently works at DreamWorks. And when the internships opened, he sent me an email like, hey, this is open. You should apply for this. So I did. I went through the NBC website, sent in my application, and a little bit less than 2 weeks later, I sent in my application within the first week that the internships opened, to clarify that. And I heard back within 2 weeks saying, hey, you've got an interview. Actually, I had 3 interviews. So they set that up via email, and then I got the call for acceptance.
That's awesome. Yeah, I also applied the traditional way, kind of took my shot in the dark and took me by surprise when I got contacted by the recruiter. But yeah, but what do you think made your application stand out? We can go with Ahdenae first.
I mean, I really wish I knew a definitive answer for this. I don't really, but I think it was the combination of my experience. And also, I was a business major. So even though I had that minor in animation, it was kind of like, business major, how do I know that she's passionate about animation? So that's where I really use my cover letter to communicate that this is really what I want to go into. I'm not just like some random business major trying to get into DreamWorks. I'm really passionate about animation. So if your resume doesn't seem completely tailored, use the cover letter to pad the resume, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I'm the same way. So I don't really come from an animation background, have any animation experience prior to this internship, but I also had a bunch of other past internship experiences, like pretty diverse. I had in VR, I had it in advertisement, I have it in graphic design. So sort of utilizing those experiences and relating that on how I can become a productive intern at DreamWorks through my cover letter and sort of like nitpicking, okay, I got this from this internship and like this, I can apply it to here. And sort of at the same time, not just your professional experience, but also your personality within the cover letter is I think is a pretty important thing too. So I like emphasized how I was pretty passionate about increasing Asian representation in media and in animation in general, and sort of picking up on that personality to sort of showcase my own personality, my own beliefs, and why I can become a unique intern at DreamWorks sort of type of thing.
Yeah, I agree. And also something I did was I put in my objective why and like my passion for production management because I'm a visual effects major and that's completely different from production management. And these internships are tailored to production mostly. So definitely look at that if you are coming from a non-art background. That will be very useful for them to know you're not just applying to every job you're getting, but you're actually spending time to tailor it. And I will say that I heard that because I was involved with WIA and SIGGRAPH and CTN and things like that, that really helps because it not only shows it mostly just shows like your passion for animation and wanting to be involved outside of school. And yeah, so definitely sign up for all those organizations. They're great.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I was also part of SIGGRAPH and really awesome. And I think just in general, the more that you show that you're active in your extracurriculars and show that you have a passion in animation and you're trying to show that you're growing and trying to be involved with the animation community, that really makes you stand out as well. So moving on from that, what was the interview process like? I know, Ahdenae, you mentioned you had 3 interviews. What was that like?
Yeah, so when the application goes through and everything, you get the emails. You get like 1 email per show that would like to interview with you. So I got 2 from 2 different TV shows and 1 from the feature that I ended up working with. So those were all half hour and they were all scheduled onto the same day. So like from the morning to about the afternoon, I was interviewing with all of these different shows. And you were given like the names of the people that you would be interviewing with, the show if it is not an unannounced show. If it's unannounced, then they won't be giving you the name of it until you have the interview. And yeah, we went through the interview process. It was a lot less nerve-wracking than I thought it would be. I was kind of like getting very nervous for it and everything, but everyone at DreamWorks is actually very kind, and everyone that I interviewed was not laid back, but very like nice to talk to. It was pleasant doing the interview process, and they asked general interview questions and more specific questions to DreamWorks, like what's your favorite DreamWorks movie and things like that.
They're definitely more on the chill side, but did anyone else have like multiple interviews with DreamWorks?
Yeah, sure. So I also had I think I had 3 or 4 interviews, and that was very scary. The first one was very, very scary, but afterwards you kind of get used to it. And I will say, like, just a tip is when they send out like your name to shows, it's basically them giving your resume. So make sure your resume is top notch because that's the deciding factor on whether they want to interview you or not. So yeah, and the interview process was, like Ahdenae said, half an hour. And something I learned as I was interviewing was trying to make the interview more conversational. So it's not just them asking me questions, but it's me asking them, because it's not just an interview for them trying to get to know you, it's you trying to get to know them. And yeah, and it also helps sort of make them imagine you working with the team. And yes, I'll pass it on to Gina.
Yeah, definitely. I only had one interview, so I didn't have to do an hour and a half of interviews. Mine was only 30 minutes long, but pretty much like the same thing with the resume. They really went through my resume, sort of pinpointing things that I've experienced, and I had to prepare answers for that. So really being prepared beforehand is what I did, like making sure you know a lot about the studio, researching about their values, their culture, and yeah, being prepared beforehand with like mock interview questions so that you have sort of a background of what you want to say during the interview is really great. And yeah, it was a fun interview in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, and like one of the like number one tips for interviews that I would give is every single interview you ever do is going to start with the question, so tell us about yourself. Have that elevator pitch about yourself memorized to a T, like beforehand. Know exactly what you're going to say for that question, because that's going to be like a constant in any interview you do.
Yes, for sure. And make sure that it's short and sweet, because you don't want to make them kind of like, tune out. So make sure it's short and sweet. And also another thing I was going to say is, if you know the team, I mean, the episode or the show or that you're going to work on, and if it's already out, go and watch it, so that will sort of show them that you are serious about it and you watch the entire season or 2 seasons before that. And that will show, that'll be like a little leg up. They'll be like, oh, she already knows the sort of content we're going for. She watched everything. That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Oh, sorry, Gina,
Sorry.
you go ahead.
Yeah. So also adding to that as well, sort of paying attention during your interview what your interviewer is saying so that you have like a bunch of questions afterwards is definitely another big tip I have, is to make sure you stay engaged during the interview and making sure you're engaging them with questions at the end of the interview.
So if the interview process was probably virtual, right? Was it like Google Meets or another web conferencing platform? What general tips do you have for people who may not have the experience of doing virtual interviews instead of in person?
My tip would be to practice and have, before the interview, like have a setup ready, practice it, like it's usually on WebEx or Google. It depends on the team, but Google is pretty accessible, Google Meet. So you can open that up, practice, make sure there's nothing distracting in your background, make sure you're not, like you can't see like trash bags or something in the back, like make sure it's professional and clean. And even though they can't see like the bottom half of you, I would suggest dressing up as you would for an interview, because that will put you in the mindset that you're at an interview, because if you're wearing pajamas, you know, what if you had to get up and get something, you know, your pajamas will show. So definitely be, it's just like you're doing a live interview, just virtually. So yes.
And I would say keep in mind that some of the social cues and everything are kind of blurred through virtual interviewing and talking with people virtually. So you might end up talking over people a little bit, or like, oh, are you saying, I'm sorry, oh, that kind of thing is a lot more common through a virtual platform. But keep in mind, these teams already are aware of that kind of thing, but be courteous of when somebody is speaking, let them kind of say their thought and kind of like gauge when to speak and when to listen to them, because that's also important in the interview, is to listen to the team that you're going to be working with.
Yeah, and I think a big difference between live and virtual interview is sort of being able to look in the camera, because when you're doing it in person, you look at like your interviewer's eyes and that's how you converse with them. But with virtual, you have to like look into the camera. So sort of practicing that beforehand, like just have your photo booth open or something and sort of practicing speaking into the camera lenses is pretty helpful as well.
Yeah, I definitely recommend kind of like recording yourself as well when you're looking at the camera, because like you'll notice some things and also help you, you know, practice what you're going to say. And yeah, let's move on to what did you do as a virtual intern? I know it's a little different being a virtual format, so could you talk about if there was any time zone difference that you have to deal with, or if you're a student, how did you balance school and work? Just in general, what did you do? And maybe we can start with Gina, because we haven't started with you for a question first.
Yeah, so as a virtual intern, I was able, I think with virtual internships, you have the ability to attend so many meetings because they're all done virtually on WebEx or Google Meet. So you can just click a button and you're there in the meeting. So I feel like that's one big pro of it. You can really learn and expand your knowledge within the pipeline. So throughout my virtual internship, I attended a lot of meetings, attended a lot of different intern events, and learned like note-taking, breakdowns, sending design assets through Shotgun, communicating with outgoing, ingoing with outside studios, and sort of being able to get to know people on my show pretty well, my production team pretty well. I even like played Among Us with my production crew once, and that was a lot of fun. And being able to really connect with other workers at DreamWorks outside of my show, outside of my department, sort of scheduling coffee chats with them throughout my entire internship. That's a lot of the things that I've done during these past 10 weeks. And in terms of balancing school with my internship, I had to definitely up my time management game this semester, balancing like 3 full days of work with classes, finals, homework, and everything. So I think one recommendation with that is sort of do not bite off more than you can chew sort of type of mentality. Sort of know how you work and not overload your schedule that way. Sort of be smart with your schedule. So don't take like the hardest classes, the most time consuming classes that semester, unless you know you can handle it. So yeah, being smart with your scheduling and time management is pretty big.
Yeah, I'll go ahead because I'm also a student. So I just wanted to elaborate on, it's going to be hard. So if you're applying for this internship during school, just know it is going to be hard, but it's totally worth it. But also, like Gina says, you have to know your capabilities and how far you can go, because at least for me, I'm on the East Coast. So I would have 8 a.m. classes and then have work start from 12 all the way till 9 p.m. and then do homework after till, you know, so you definitely have to be prepared. And if you have the attitude to do all of it, it's definitely possible and it's definitely worth it, but just know your limits because it will be draining at times.
And I actually was not a student throughout my internship. I'm a graduate, a recent graduate. So I did not have classes to worry about juggling, but I do run a side business. So that's what I was juggling along with the internship. And yeah, it was 3 days a week, 3 full days a week. And because I was on feature and all feature is departmental, which we'll touch upon later probably, I was with a different team every single week. So working virtually, sometimes it was kind of like, do I introduce myself now? Or like, how are things going to be organized and everything? So if you're in that kind of situation, I would advise take initiative, be the one to send the email first and introduce yourself, and make sure that you're social and visible, even as a virtual intern. That's like really the big takeaway of like, I guess, how to succeed as a virtual intern.
Awesome. So it was 3 days a week. Did you get to choose at all what days you came into work? Okay. And wait, do you have something to add?
No, I was just going to say for people, keep in mind that you have to work 8 full hours. You cannot mix and match hours for days. You have to have a schedule that will work with that 8 hours. So just wanted to plug that in because I didn't know that previously.
Awesome. So was it mostly meetings that you attended, or were there like specific tasks that the team would train you to do? What was like some of the most exciting things that you have fond memories of attending during your internship? And maybe we can start with Ahdenae.
Yeah, so as a production intern, a lot of what I did was note-taking and attending the different meetings. So it was kind of cool being put in a different department every single week because I got to go to a little bit of a different mix of meetings every single week. For example, like lighting would have like their final lighting passes and things like that, and then layout would have like their setup meetings and things like that, and each of the departments had their own launch meetings, which were different. And so I did a lot of note-taking, and that was like asset-based note-taking and then shot-based note-taking, which is a little bit different, and like you have to listen for certain details or leave out certain details and just say what the director said. And then other than that, it was a lot of doing tasks in Shotgun and being trained in Shotgun, communicating with the artists to see if they're done with their shots, if they're ready for dailies, things like that. And yeah, and going to intern events was like really the highlight. I think going to coffee chats, getting to meet with Gina and Maansi and all the other interns and everything, and getting to have fun with my teams too.
Yeah, and I can add on is definitely when you are an intern, those virtual chats, coffee chats are so fun because if you mention you're an intern, they'll be like, oh, okay, and then everyone's so nice at DreamWorks, they will talk to you even if you reach out to. I reached out to like line producers, and they were like, oh yeah, sure, we can do a coffee chat. I was so happy, and it was amazing. And about what I did during my internship. So I was on a TV show that was episodic, which in the simplest terms means it's not departmental. There's no departments, it's just all together. So yeah, it's a lot of note taking, a lot of you learn script breakdowns and go to a lot of meetings. And yeah, I think my favorite part was definitely all our intern events. We had a really cool heads up game, but also I really loved the design reviews. It's so cool as a production person to see the executive producers and like the leadership of the show sort of reviewing everything and like giving their opinion, saying, oh, this could be like this could do this. So that was really awesome to listen to. I looked forward to it every week.
Yeah, so in terms of like tasks I sort of answered that in the previous question, but like specifically, I really enjoyed learning more about storyboarding and attending all the storyboarding meetings in production and seeing like what Maansi said, like the the higher ups giving their feedback and seeing the different perspectives different people have and how it changes throughout the time I was there. Like, oh, maybe like this panel changed, and sort of seeing the reason behind that was really interesting and really like gave me a great perspective of the industry and where it was heading. So definitely enjoyed that part.
Awesome. And we kind of touched this a little bit, but there's differences between the TV production internship and the feature side, just because how it's structured. The feature is structured differently from TV production. So maybe we can talk about a little bit more about these differences, and maybe we can have Ahdenae talk a little bit more about how is feature departmentalized, and yeah.
Of course. So yeah, feature, as I mentioned before, is departmental. There are some TV shows that are also departmental, but all feature is departmental. So what that means is as you go through the animation pipeline, like you start with story and then you go to art and then like down that little pipeline, each of those are broken into their own departments that have their own production teams managing them. So as a feature intern, you are put with one department every single week until you're like all the way down the pipeline with lighting. And then it goes to post-production and everything. And so that's one of the main differences, is that all feature is departmental and some TV is departmental, but mostly episodic. And there are also other differences, like how we use shotgun. Feature uses shotgun a lot more in depth, and TV uses other things. And also the timing. So feature takes a lot longer than creating a TV episode. So I've heard people say that TV is like very rewarding because you get to like see the end product faster, whereas feature takes around like 3 to 4 years to get a movie out. So, and that affects the timing of like how it feels to be in production too, because I feel like on TV, from what I heard, it's a lot more constant in the workload that you're given. Whereas on feature, you have slow weeks and then you have really, really busy weeks, and it kind of like goes in ebbs and flows.
Yeah, adding to that, since I was a TV production intern, and my TV show was actually departmental as well. But even though it was departmental, we had a separate production department, and I pretty much, instead of like jumping from department to department, I pretty much worked with those same group of 10 people throughout my entire time at my internship. And along with that, the different timing between feature and TV, it's definitely a lot more fast-paced in TV. But yeah, it's pretty much what I know.
Yeah, same. It was, I was also on a TV show and it was episodic. So we had the same production team. It was definitely really fast paced. And I was going to say something and I forgot, but I'll tell it when it comes back to me.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And so for episodic, does that mean that you follow one specific episode the entire way through, or were there like multiple episodes that you were shadowing at the same time? What was it like, Maansi?
Yeah, sure. So I was lucky to follow all the episodes. So it's sort of like the production team's divided into 3, and each team, so it's like a partner of a coordinator and a production assistant. So each team would do 2 episodes, and I would just help whoever needed help, or whoever was like, hey, I'm doing this. Do you want to learn how to do it? And so I was lucky to get to know everyone that way and to learn a little bit of every episode they were working on. And
Yeah, they're definitely at different stages at different times, all these episodes. So it sounds like you got to kind of just dive in whenever they need help and see the different stages that these episodes are in. So that's pretty awesome. And let's talk about, so what impact did the internship have on you? And did it make you reconsider your career path, or did it help solidify your plans for the future? And maybe we can start with Gina this time.
Yeah, so this internship was like, first of all, a great experience, learning experience for me to get familiarized with the animation industry. And yeah, it definitely solidified my thoughts of becoming a producer in animation. I'm currently minoring in producing, so I definitely want to become a producer in animation one day and sort of stay in production, learn the ins and outs in productions in the years to come. And yeah, I think DreamWorks, one thing that was really great about my internship was that I was able to express what I wanted to learn. So like, oh my God, can I learn a little bit more about this side, the animation side of production? And they're like, yeah, sure. Like, here's some tasks that you can do to learn more about it. I'm like, cool. So they really want you to learn and sort of get to where you want to be. So you taking that initiative of telling them what you want to learn, what you want to pursue during your internship is very important. And yeah, definitely learned a lot from this experience.
Yes, I would also say it's what I loved is working in like animation is basically like art school, just you get paid. So it's basically like you're working with your friends all the time. And it was, at least for me, it solidified. I wanted to go into production, but I wasn't sure about it because I'm a visual effects major. And having this internship really solidified it. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to, like Gina, I want to build my way up to producer. So yeah, it was a great learning experience. And that's sort of what they emphasize. Like even on the teams, they want you to learn. It's not like how fast you can learn, like how many tasks you're doing. It's just they want you to take your time at your own pace and learn as much as you can.
Yeah, I definitely felt that too. It was kind of like you can custom, even though it's a production internship, if you really wanted to go into story, your team is not going to hold you from that. They will give you the resources to go where you want to. So, in my personal experience, I also entered this being like, not really knowing the most about production. I was a business major, so I was kind of like, I want to do, I guess, business for animation, but I don't really know what that looks like. Oh, I was a management major, to clarify. So I wanted to do that for animation. I don't really know what that looks like. And I was like, oh, production might be a good route for this. And it was. And I really loved it. And I really loved being able to work with people who were in like the management production side of things, but also knew how to have fun. Like that's the kind of work environment that I really wanted to end up in. So I was really happy to be with a team that had like the same values that I did and liked the same things that I did. So it was great, and they were super supportive in whatever I wanted to go into, which is production now.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
sorry.
Maansi, go ahead.
I was just going to add on that just because they're production internships, it doesn't mean you have to want to be in production. Like we had several artists, and even in the past, people who are artists wanting to come to get this internship experience because it's also that kind of first step in to like with coffee chats you could talk to people. Like if you want to be a story artist, you could talk to a bunch of story artists and set up chats and see how they got there. And that's sort of, this is like your step in. So even if you don't want to pursue a career in production, this is a good way to get your foot in the door, but also learn the other side of the pipeline and how things work.
Yeah, and
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
So also adding to that, like they really encourage like you to take on self projects that you want to do. So like if like what I said earlier, like I said mentioned, oh, I want to learn more about animation side of production. And they're like, okay, here you go. But they really want you to learn and grow by yourself, but they like support you in any way they can. And yeah, like that's like the beauty of this internship and at DreamWorks, because the work culture really wants you to sort of pursue your path and your goals, and they're gonna help you get there no matter what.
Okay. So I was going to mention that I also, when I first started my internship, I was debating whether I wanted to go into production management or if I wanted to go into biz dev. So yeah, there's definitely resources within DreamWorks. They're going to give it to you if it's just a matter of fact that you're going to have to communicate that with your team, and they will do whatever they can to help you out. And especially for BizDev as well, they will also provide like some tests. If you really want to do that, you just have to let your team know and they will help you out. And so how would you recommend a artist to tailor their resume for a production internship? Since most of us here are, I guess we have a background in production, but if we could give some insight to our audience, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So I would say you can mention that you're an artist, but for this role specifically, because it's production, they want to see more of your people skills. So if you were on a senior film, you can mention about how you worked with the producer or how you communicate with the team, you worked with the pipeline, you know, things like that. So trying to look at that, the job posting very closely, analyze everything, try to use the words, the language they use. There's even on the internet, if you search resume active verbs and adjectives, there will be like a whole list, and just trying to make your resume, try to match it with the job posting. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I'll let someone else add on to it.
I can go ahead. Yeah, so because this is production and it's more managing the artist than being the artist yourself, you want to highlight your communication skills, your ability to multitask, your adaptability, because most of you probably don't have experience in shotgun, and that is okay. It's okay to say that. I had no experience in shotgun either. But you want to communicate that you are able to pick up programs quickly, that you are able to learn quickly, that maybe you have some leadership skills that you would like to highlight, like if you were in a club and you were on the executive board of that club, mention that. So even if they're not like specifically animation internship experience and everything, if you have any experience communicating to a team, managing a team, being a team player, definitely include that in your resume.
Yeah, and to add on, even if you don't have those experiences, like professional experiences, even retail jobs, working in a library, working in a store, those are all like amazing experiences because you work with different types of people, you learn how to work with the team. So they might not seem significant at when you're like trying to write your resume, but they really are, because that shows that you've been in that kind of environment, you worked in a, like, you know, there's, when you're working retail, there's a bunch of things that happen, so you're adaptable. And yeah, so that's all very important. And don't worry about it if you, I know when I was applying for jobs, I was worried that, oh my God, I have so many retail jobs, but I don't have anything professional. But it's very helpful because you just have to make sure you word them properly.
Yeah, definitely. Just relating your experiences as an artist to a role in production, like what Maansi said, sort of digesting the description of the job you're applying for and sort of just finding ways to relate your experiences as an artist to those specific like bullet points. And also, like, since you're an artist, you already have a pretty unique background and you understand a side of the industry already that other people don't have who are not artists. So sort of using that to your benefit and expressing how much you're willing to learn to explore a different side of the industry in production is also a big highlight to when you're applying.
Awesome, thank you. And so the final question I have for today, before we jump to our audience questions, is how can we virtually build connections with industry professionals while being in school and not being able to attend conventions in person?
Yeah, I can start off by saying LinkedIn. Like even like Rise Up Animation, like even this panel, like whatever panels we have at Asian Queens or Latinx in animation, all of those, that's like a gateway. You could message the panelists on LinkedIn and say, oh, hey, I saw you on this panel. I thought that was so interesting, like that you came from here, or I have a question regarding your answer. You know, that's like a little leg up to them seeing it. And always, here's a little tip, please, please, please send a message when you are sending a request, because if you just send a request, we don't know why you're sending it. And it's very helpful when you do send a message so that we know what your intentions are, what you want from us, because maybe it's something we can't give you and we could guide you to someone else who can.
Yeah, definitely. And also joining different organizations like WIA, T Hire Foundation, which I'm a part of, just finding these different organizations in the industry is going to connect you to so many different people in the industry. And you'll definitely be able to find so many connections, so many mentors who can help you out with your career path there as well.
Yeah, and I would have to say like LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn is also a great tool to find people like alumni from your school. That's a great starting point because you already have something in common and that's already an interest point that you can start a conversation on. Like I got a message that was like, hey, I noticed you went to PCC, you're also a Lancer, like I would love to go into this position. Do you have some time to talk? And I was like, of course I do. So definitely like include that in your message, reach out to people that are kind of like in your circle and everything.
Yeah, and just to add on, when you reach out, be very respectful and don't kind of be like, oh, hey, please meet me. Just kind of be like, I would love an opportunity to meet you. Like this is like you're reaching out to someone and they're doing you a favor. So you don't want it to rub the wrong way. So definitely be careful about that. And yeah.
And to add to that, say thank you afterwards. That's
Yes.
very important. Send like a quick custom thank you note to them because it's very important to be appreciative of the time people are giving you.
Yes, thank you emails. And also be prepared, have questions ready, research the person beforehand, look at their job description. Maybe they were a PA and came all the way to supervisor. You can ask how their journey was going from each position. Don't go just blindsided and be like, oh, I didn't prepare anything, because that would leave a really bad impression on you. And this is sort of trying to be like getting into the industry, you know, like a connection. So be very prepared and make sure you're in a good environment, because that's also the first impression. It's sort of like an interview. You're sort of interviewing with this person because maybe potentially if they had a job or if they knew someone who had a job, they could recommend you. So take this as an interview and be very well prepared.
Yeah, with that, the being prepared part, I always research through LinkedIn, look at through all their pages. If they have like a portfolio website, look through that. And I always prepare like 5 questions right before the chat, because usually when you go through those questions, more questions arise from your conversation. So you can just start adding to that. But I always try to start out with 5 questions in the back of my pocket before attending a coffee chat. And especially during this time with quarantine and everything, I think people are more willing to talk to people through like coffee chats because we're all stuck at home and we all want to talk to different people. So take advantage of that and just be very proactive. Just reach out. Like, don't be afraid to reach out and sort of explore on your own.
Awesome. Yeah, I would like to add to just, be yourself, be sincere. Everyone is pretty nice in the animation industry. So yeah. All right. So we have a couple of audience questions. So the first question I have is, can I intern if I'm not currently enrolled in a university? And maybe Ahdenae can talk about this since she was a graduate before the internship. So take it away.
Thank you. So yes, you can intern if you are a recent graduate. So I believe the exact amount of months after graduation is on the internship application. But yes, recent graduates can intern, but if you are not a recent graduate, sadly, sorry.
Yeah, if you're past the time that they give you for this internship, I would just encourage to apply to production assistant roles because those are entry levels, and you also get to shadow the production team. So yeah. And we have another question asking, what are some tips for writing good cover letters? And maybe we can go with Gina first for this one.
Yeah, so cover letters, I look at it as a chance because you have your resume, and that's pretty much like the hard facts of yourself. So use that cover letter to your advantage to sort of say what your resume can't say. So, like your passions, your willingness to learn, just sort of connecting everything and formulating everything in a way for them to really see how invested you are in the program to learn. Making sure you connect, like what I said earlier, connecting the things on your resume to the role as a production intern, like going through the keywords, like copying keywords, like, okay, they're asking for them to be very productive, good time management skills, be able to communicate people, make sure you sort of include that, incorporate that into your cover letter. And yeah, so relating your hard skills from your resume into the role itself that you're applying for, as well as showing some personality and your passions and your willingness to learn all within your cover letter. Yeah.
And I would say like make sure that it's engaging and like brief and short and sweet. Yeah, have that personality. I definitely took the approach of like starting mine with a hook that's an anecdote. So it was like a little bit of a story about myself in the beginning, like a short one. And then I went into like a specific experience. So like on your resume, you'll write, this is the job I worked, these are my responsibilities. Your cover letter is the place to be like, this was a huge event that I helped put on, and here were the details of how I helped and how it relates to this position and how I think I'll be a good fit for it. So use it to elaborate and use it to show your personality too.
Yeah, definitely for cover letters, no longer than one page.
And make sure you check those typos. Make sure you address it to the right company because apparently recruiters sometimes say that they've seen cover letters where if you're applying to DreamWorks, it's like listed for another company and they're just like, no. So that sort of is a red flag because then we know you're not tailoring your stuff. And also you can mention maybe you watched Shrek as a kid, maybe you watched How to Train Your Dragon and you have a collection, try to personalize it as much as you can and say why you are a perfect fit for the job and for DreamWorks.
Yeah, and I would like to add on to that. It's like you should make sure you have a really, really strong resume first and foremost, because the cover letter is just the add-on to it. So resume is what they look first, and then maybe they will look at your cover letter.
Yes, exactly.
So our next question is, how did you guys feel about the experience being online? I guess we can kind of like bounce back and forth, like what are some of maybe the downside of this being virtual, and I can probably talk a little bit about my experience of it being in person and go from there.
Yeah, sure. I can start. So for me, it was a very positive experience because I am, like I said before, I'm on the East Coast and I would have never applied if it wasn't virtual. So this opportunity, I know a lot of the other interns are also on the East Coast. So it was amazing to have the chance to work from, I was in Savannah and now I'm in Ohio. So it was, and you're working like for an LA studio, like that's great. So definitely opened a lot of doors. And like Gina said before, like earlier today, we can attend so many more meetings than we could have on ground because then you have to count the time of running from room to room. So now you just like go to the calendar and you just click the link and you're like, oh, I'm there. So it was definitely we probably learned a lot more. I'm not sure we'll hear from Vina later about all the running around, but yeah, it was, for me personally, it was a great experience. And I probably would have missed it if we weren't virtual.
Yes, definitely. There was a lot of running around, having to book rooms instead of just sending a meeting link and everyone showing up. I would say that's mostly the main difference is that, yeah, you don't get to see people face to face, but it's still, you still see them in the virtual rooms that in these meetings and whatnot. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's too much of a difference. Yeah.
Yeah, I
And-
definitely. Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
I definitely didn't feel any restrictions being online. Like, I felt like I was able to get the most out of my internship. And yeah, what Maansi said earlier, I learned a lot by attending all those meetings. It was so easy to attend those because I click, click, and I'm there. But yeah, I definitely did not feel any restrictions. So it was a terrific, awesome, times 100 experience for me.
Yeah, and it was awesome for me too. I love my team. I miss them so much. But for me, because I was with like a different team every single week at the beginning of this internship, that was kind of hard for me to like manage because I'm kind of introverted, and it was like meeting an entirely different culture every single week. And they were all sweet, but they do like run their teams differently. So that was kind of boggling at first, but it's something that you get used to and adapt to as the internship goes along. And I definitely didn't feel like virtual was inhibiting me from making close connections with people. I have people on my team that I like consider my friends now, like my close friends. So it's definitely not like you're there virtually for a couple meetings and then you're out. Like you are making real connections.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add, like the team at DreamWorks, they make you feel like you're on the team. It's not like, oh, she's the intern. It's like, oh, so she's an addition. Like she is in the production team, which I loved. It wasn't like you were looked at, oh, you know, she's an intern. It was like we were looked at the same level as everyone else, and that was amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And by now they probably have all the kinks ironed out. So, you know, the virtual internships are pretty much just like regular internships nowadays. And we have another question asking, is there any recommendations on how to lay out your resume? How much detail or too much detail you want to add to your description? How do you order your experience, and other general advice? And yeah, whoever wants to jump on this can go ahead.
Sure. So I would order it from the oldest to the newest. So newest on the top, and because that's what you want to see. And one tip I would say is highlight the job title, or if it's an organization that you worked for, like WIA, or if you volunteered with WIA, highlight the organization, like highlight the things you want them to see first. And yeah, I was suggested to have like a clean all the way down, not like a box, you know, like a graph kind of look. I was told that is kind of confusing because you don't know where to look, but it really depends on how you organize things. So yeah, I would say be very clean, make sure it's not super duper wordy, and don't put your pictures on your resume. It, only if it's like a cartoon maybe, but I've heard some people say that they've seen that and they feel really uncomfortable by it. So
Yeah, I would agree. The general advice I have received as well is like don't put little pictures and everything. You know, just have a clean resume because you never know which company is going to really like it and which company is going to absolutely hate it. So it's better to just leave it off. But yeah, I have mine structured where it's my work experience first, and then my like education next, and then my skills at the bottom. Some people won't put their skills on the bottom. It's like just how you feel like you need to prioritize things. I know some people have objectives, and that might be helpful to have like an objective at the top. I have my contact information at the very top, and it's like the same top that goes on my cover letter too. So they match so that people know that this is the same person because they both match in design. Um, and let me see what else. Oh, make sure that your skills are not like smaller. Like I had mine originally in a smaller font so that I could fit a little bit more on the page. But I was told like your skills are just as important on the page as any of your other experience. And although it is true that you generally want to have your things listed in reverse chronological order, I had a mentorship with Nickelodeon back in high school that would have gone at the bottom. And I was told, even though it's not in order, to put it right under my DreamWorks internship, because that's what you want people to focus on. So it really depends what you want people to focus on. Put that at the top.
Yeah, definitely. Along with that, sort of tailoring your resume to the job you have you're applying for. So if it is an animation job, just put your relevant experiences in animation. And if you're applying to like an artist job, like or just tailor your resume, your experiences, your skills, your hard and soft skills, and your school activities by the job description. Like really tailor it so that they know that, okay, she has experience in this, so she can probably apply that to that. And also with the cleanliness, do not add like a lot of colors, do not add crazy images. And one way to sort of get feedback on that is something I recommend is to get feedback, just send it to your friends, send it to people you can trust and get their feedback on it. Because I feel like when I work on my resume for a long time, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm working on anymore. So really trying to get feedback on it so that you can get it to like tip-top shape is pretty much what I recommend.
Yeah, and I wanted to add, if you don't have space for mentioning all your soft skills, try to get that in the description of your jobs. Because like communication, you could be like, I communicated with everyone on the team, or, when space is limited, you can try to push that into the description. And that also sort of shows how you use those skills, not just you listing them. So, yes.
Yeah, those are really good tips. And for those of the applicants who might be interested in the art side as well, would you recommend them putting in their portfolio for their expectations from the hiring team for like aspiring interns portfolio? Do any of you all know anything about this part?
So I did attach a portfolio, but they didn't necessarily ask questions or interview stuff about it. So like I said before, like it doesn't make you less valuable if you're an artist. I don't think that made any sense, but basically it doesn't throw you off if you're an artist. You're as qualified as anyone. So you can include your portfolio and everything, but just know they might not directly ask you like, oh, how did you do that? Because this is for production. But definitely for job opportunities, they will like portfolios amazingly they're going to be very particular about that.
Yeah, adding to that, when I applied to the production internship, I also attached my portfolio, and my design portfolio has nothing it doesn't really have any animation art in it. It's mostly like design, user experience, product design in it. But I asked our recruiting manager, I asked her later on within the internship, I asked her like, oh, did you guys actually look at my portfolio when I attached it with my resume? And they're like, yeah, we actually looked at it. And it's like good to see that you have other interests and to sort of see where your passions lie. Because I feel like when you have these portfolios, you put a lot of effort into it. So they can see a lot of your passions, a lot of your extracurriculars in it. So I think it's a great way to let them see a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, and I also did include a portfolio link as well. I think it's just, a good way to get to know you as a person and get to know your interests and what you have some experience in maybe. And as for applying for art positions, I don't think any of us have yet, so we can't really speak to what people want on their reels. But if you want more like real advice from the actual recruiters, the DreamWorks Careers Instagram and their LinkedIn and everything, they post like tips every once in a while that are excellent, and they're actually from the recruiters. So good luck.
Dang, I feel like I'm the only one who did not put their portfolio link. So, no pressure. Just if you think it supplements and really shows your passion for animation, definitely put it in. But yeah, so we're gonna wrap this up with this last question here, and I think this is a fun one. So what were you looking forward to the most from your internship? And did you achieve any goals that you made during your internship as well?
Yeah, as interns, we have to have 3 goals set before our internship, and then we have to make a presentation after. And so it's all about, outside of all the work you have, trying to meet those goals. Like the goals could be simple, like trying to understand the TV pipeline or meeting 3 people a week, like coffee chats and things like that. And I think what we looked forward to the most was just learning. And it's honestly kind of crazy that we had an opportunity with DreamWorks, because at least I keep forgetting until I see Shrek and I'm like, wait a second. And I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to look forward to, and it's just such a fun environment.
Yeah, to add on to that, like I set myself a goal in the beginning, like, okay, you do not have any experience in animation prior to this internship. So you're going to learn as much as you can, talk to as many people as you can during this internship. And yeah, I felt like I really achieved that with my internship. Like I announced to my crew team right from the beginning, was like, I want to learn as much as I can, please. If you think I can learn from this task, like, please let me know what I can learn. And sort of just initiating that conversation in the beginning helped me achieve my goal at the end. And like, yeah, what Maansi said, we had that entire video presentation to wrap our internship. And through that, when I was making my presentation, I was like, oh my God, I actually learned so much. I was like, I did this, I did that, I did this, I met this, I met that, I met this. And it's pretty crazy how much we accomplished these past 10 weeks. And yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. We all did that presentation and everything, and I think most of our goals included networking and getting to do these coffee chats with people. That was definitely something that I had like no experience in going into this. I like knew nobody, and I wanted to meet people and get more comfortable with meeting up with people and reaching out to people. So that was a really cool thing that I wasn't expecting to get out of the internship, but that I definitely did get out of the internship. And mostly my goal was to get a lot out of like production and learning how to do production and everything. And that's like definitely the focus of everything. Everything that we were working for these 10 weeks, we definitely got a lot of hands-on experience. Like you're really treated like a little professional. You're not treated as the intern.
Yeah,
You get to do
exactly.
things.
They teach you like you're a professional, and we were also allowed to, so DreamWorks, who also helped us with this, APA, which is Asian Pacific Americans, like they have all these little ERGs. There's Ben, that's the Black Employee Network, and there's all these little ERGs, Young Professional Networks. So those were also, we had like intern chats with some of the members, and we could sign up for all the newsletters and go to all these events, and there were trivia nights. And it was so great because they treated you like you are actually a dream worker. And yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, you guys are all pretty much like full employees when you're an intern. So that was really awesome that they got to treat you to all the perks of being a DreamWorks employee. So yeah, do you all have any closing remarks for tonight, or any last minute advice for our audience?
Sure. Never give up, because I applied for like 3 years straight and got rejected, just cold email. So you really have to put in a lot of time to your resume. And like we said throughout today, is tailoring it. And now that we're virtual, in this virtual environment, like even after we go, when schools go back on ground and things, you like just open the door to having those virtual coffee chats with people. So reach out on LinkedIn and ask for advice and everything. So definitely those do make a big difference.
Yeah, I'm the same. I applied the past 3 years and I got cold emailed all 3 times as well until this year. And so yeah, never give up, and also just take initiative, be proactive, reach out to people, like don't be afraid to reach out to people, because that's a big way of how you get into the industry. To get your foot into the door is through networking and being proactive. So yeah, take the initiative.
Yes, absolutely. Take the initiative. I also applied for 3 years before I got this position. Yeah, 333, all of us. But yeah, it took a while, and I know that it's disheartening getting that rejection email. And after a while, it's kind of like, oh, is this the right direction for me and everything? But something will work out if you are adamant about it, and definitely reach out, meet people. And I don't know about you all, but here's my invitation to everyone watching this. You can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, and I can help you out any way that I can. So there you go. If you're shy, here's your invitation.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today and for, sharing your great advice. It was very, very helpful, I'm sure, to our audience today. And yeah, thank you for taking your time out of your evening to share your knowledge, your experience. And yeah, for those of you in the audience, I hope this was very helpful, and I wish you the best of luck moving forward. So yeah, take care, everyone, and have a good night.
Yeah, you got this, guys. You can do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay, so I ended the live stream.